Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us, Shaun. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. So I was going to start, if possible, by asking you some questions about developments at Chelsea. Obviously, the big news is Thomas Tuchel's sacking yesterday. What was your reaction to that? Was it the correct decision?
I definitely wouldn't say it's the correct decision. I'd say more my reaction to it was I was very, very shocked. I think if you go back to the transfer window and they're giving him 250 million plus to spend on transfers, that kind of lets the rest of the world, especially the fans of the club, that they're backing their manager for the long term sort of thing. So when that happens after 7 games, I think it would have surprised and shocked everybody. But also at the same time, there might be something going on that we don't know about, that there might have been friction between them which caused it.
Absolutely. I mean, do you think that them giving him so much money and letting him bring in his own signings and then sacking him so quickly, does that show Todd Boehly's naivety as a Premier League chairman?
I wouldn't say so much naivety. He's new to the game, isn't he, really? So he's still learning, and he's still got to learn that understanding of how running a football club, especially like Chelsea, is and what it's going to take. And I think he's going to have to get used to that. He's going to have to get the hang of that quicker than he thinks. Otherwise, he's going to be going through a lot of managers, or the opposite, managers won't take the job. So right now, he's put the club and the players in a weird situation, and he's just got to correct it as quick as he possibly can now.
It looks like Graham Potter's going to be unveiled as his replacement. Do you think he's the right man for the job?
I honestly think he's a fantastic manager, to be honest with you. What he's done in the Premier League, especially at Brighton, and this is no disrespect to Brighton or the players there, but what he's done in the Premier League with the funding that he's had and the players that he's had, he's made those players better. That he's built a team there that outpass a lot of teams in the Premier League with the budget of 250 mil in the bank, or 250 mil spent on players. So for me, if he can teach players, maybe not on that elite level, to get somewhere close to the elite team and keep the ball away from those types of players, I think it always makes me think, what would he do with a set of elite players if those elite players buy into the way he plays and his philosophy of football? It could be a scary thing and a great new thing for the Premier League.
Is there a concern over his experience managing sort of world-class players and challenging for trophies?
Well, I wouldn't say it's hard. As for the challenging for trophies part, it's hard when you're Brighton and he's manager. You haven't got that squad depth to possibly play in all the games coming up. So he has to prioritise one or the other, and he prioritises the Premier League, rightfully so, and sees to run his luck and see how far he can get in the cup game. So I think in that respect, he's done a fantastic job, as I said before. But as respects to the handling the bigger players, you calling it inexperience, I say, well, to start with, a lot of managers, firstly, are always inexperienced. And how does he get that experience if he's not given the chance to?
Okay. How would you rate Todd Boehly's first transfer window at Chelsea?
Well, I think they've signed good players, to be honest with you. I think him keeping hold of Gallagher, keeping Gallagher was a good one, as long as he plays and gets minutes, because I think he's a fantastic young player, talent, English that we have. Sterling, I think, is a massive signing. He started, I wouldn't say he started slow, but for him scoring goals, he started in a place he wanted to start it, but he's up and running, scoring goals now, and he scored 3 important ones. So I think in terms of the players he brought in, especially at the back with Koulibaly and Fofana, I think they're good signings, and it's hard to see how, with the team that they have there, especially now that Aubameyang's in, they have that number 9, that focal point. It's hard to see how they don't challenge for the top 4 with the squad of players they have.
You mentioned in a previous interview that Aubameyang would suit Chelsea, given his history of Tuchel. Given what's now happened, do you think that either party will be regretting that move?
Well, I don't think Aubameyang will regret the move, because he's tried to sign in for a massive club in Chelsea, a great club, great fans, and he's back in the Premier League again, and he's playing Champions League football as well. So I don't think he'll complain too much. I think what will be maybe the struggle, or the thing that they both have to get used to, is when the new manager comes in, is he going to be like Tuchel? Is he going to allow him to be a maverick, or is he going to make him strict, and which doesn't seem to work for Aubameyang. He seems to like to do what Aubameyang likes to do. But I think the next manager that comes in, if you kind of, I wouldn't say lean in with him, but if you kind of, as long as he works hard for the team and he scores you those goals, you got to give him a little bit of a yardage in a way, because it's hard to change your character like him.
Right. Raheem Sterling followed the same path as you from Man City to Chelsea. Do you think that he's made the right decision for his career going there?
Yeah, I think for him personally, yes. I think the key thing to him was playing more football and being a bigger part of the bigger and more important games. And I think if he felt he's going to get that at Chelsea, I think for him it will be the right decision. And he's playing all the time. He's getting loads of 90 minutes under his belt, and that's what he was looking for. So it's hard not to say it was the right opinion for him.
Where do you think Chelsea are going to finish the season now, and could they miss out on the top four?
Well, to be honest, I kind of thought with what Spurs did in the transfer window that they would miss out on the top four from the start of the season. But then after seeing Spurs play against Chelsea, I retracted that. But now I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's, yeah, like I said, they have the players. They definitely have the players to do it. I think now it's about, Tuchel's not there, so now it's about finding that manager that is going to take them into the top four. I think that there's a lot of tough teams that, especially ones I want to say potential banana skins, but ones where you ain't going to give you a challenge. Like, I think people don't pay attention to Brighton. I think a lot of people, we've seen what Fulham have done to Liverpool. We've seen what Brentford's done to Man United. Crystal Palace nearly beat City. So do you know what I mean? There's loads of potential points lost for a lot of the top clubs if they're not at that A game. So there'll be a lot of opportunities.
Do you think this is the strongest the Premier League's ever been in terms of going down the league and seeing so many brilliant players at unfashionable clubs?
Yeah, for me, I honestly, I think so. I would be totally in agreement with that, and I can totally understand why we would all say it as well. I think if you see what the teams have done strengthening, Newcastle strengthened in very clever and strategic ways. I think, obviously, we know Man United's gone out and broke the bank. Chelsea's done the same thing. Spurs, Arsenal, Crystal Palace are always steady and causing a problem. Brighton's bought a few players. The list can go on. Everybody, for the first time, apart with exceptions of, I think, Bournemouth, has bought quality to try and stay in the Premier League.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to Man City, if that's okay. City have looked great so far with Haaland up front. Do you reckon he can fire them to the Champions League this season?
I'd like to think so, but Champions League's a hard competition. Look, it's not the Champions League for no reason. Every team in there is a hard game. We would have put our houses on Real Madrid to beat Sharif last year. They go there and lose. So you have to bring not only your A game all the time, but sometimes you still need that little bit of luck, and that was to take you over the line. And I think they have the squad, the players, especially with the new adds of Haaland and Alvarez, to give us that extra edge up front and in and around the box when the ball does go in there. They definitely give us another string to our bow to get across the line there, yes.
Do you think Pep should put any less attention on the Premier League and focus on the Champions League, or has he got the squad to compete for both?
I don't think he should basically put more attention on the Champions League than the Premier League, because out of all the competitions, I still think to win the Premier League is kind of harder to do than, I would say, the Champions League, because of the length of time you have to be consistently good for. It's not about just a little bit of luck here, we'll take you through the next round. You have to be good for 33 games plus to win the Premier League. So I think that's a massive achievement in its own. And I think if Man City win the Premier League, I think that helps them get to where they need to in the Champions League, because of they're keeping that consistent form going rather than a break. So I think they both work in tandem together, to be quite honest with you. But I think we have Man City do have the squad to basically do what Liverpool did last year and get to finals in every cup if they need to.
Obviously, Pep and the City owners are desperate to win the Champions League, probably above anything else now. If he doesn't perform well in it this season, are there any question marks over his future?
No, I would never. I think it'd be wrong to put a question mark over his future. I think what he's done in his time at City is just out of this world. Like what he's built in the club, the whole structure from the academy all the way up to the first team, even to the ladies' football, the women's team. They all play the City way, and they all play how Pep. No, I wouldn't say Pep wants them to play, but they all play with that patient, controlling possession, and staying in control of the game and wait for those chances and opportunities to come out. So I think, in general, what he's built there will be hard for somebody to come in and try and step in and take that role. It would almost be like starting again sort of thing. But as a manager, at the same time, unless you just needed a break or a sabbatical where you just needed to wind down, because as you can see, he wears his heart on the sleeves on the sideline. He's involved in every minute. So he will need a break at some point. And hopefully, just for me, he takes his breaks in the summer rather than decides it elsewhere. But I think, no, I wouldn't question his job at all.
Erling Haaland, unbelievable start to the season with 10 goals in 6 games, I think it is so far. Could he potentially break the Premier League goal scoring record this season?
Yeah, yes, he can. It's so hard to explain because he plays very patiently. I think in his position, because he's not like, he's completely different to Alvarez. Alvarez will, in a way, wander around, search for the ball, get involved, pop it off, then running behind. Whereas Haaland will keep pushing the defence back and create that space in those little gaps in between the midfield and the defence for people like Foden, if Jack's playing Jack, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo, and then he comes into effect then. And you'll see every now and again, he'll probably get the ball to feet, pass it off, or turn, assist, or run at people. But more times than none, if you see before he scores his back-to-back hat-trick, I think there was a spell of 10 minutes where I don't think he was involved in the game. Ball goes in the box, he scores a goal. Then he gets more into it, then he scores another 2 goals and so on. So I think he's, in a way, that finished that piece of the puzzle that we were missing. And you could say to a degree, what Chelsea were looking for in a Roman Lukaku, which didn't happen. I think Haaland's the perfect fit for
that. Similar question. Obviously, it's early days in his Man City career to kind of work out how long he's going to stay there for. But if he does stay there for 6-7 years, is he potentially a danger to Alan Shearer's record as well?
I don't think the guy's going to like me saying this, but he keeps this up. Yeah, it's going to be hard to stop him from getting it if he's scoring the goals he's scoring 10 in 6 games. That's going to be an issue for anyone.
Brilliant, thank you. So quick turn to Liverpool, if that's okay. Following their 4-1 defeat to Napoli last night, they've won just 2 of 8 games this season. What do you think is going wrong for Jurgen Klopp and his side?
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything to be worried about. They're definitely going through a bad patch. But then at the same time, I know it's only Bournemouth, but you've seen what they can do against Bournemouth when they play that high pressing, get it the way they want to get it. So I think there's a matter of them getting things back to where they were last year. I think Thiago Alcantara is fit now, so he'll come back into the team. There'll be Fabinho. I'm not sure why Henderson didn't play yesterday. I'm not sure whether he'll be injured or anything, but he's still to come back. And it's just a matter of just getting that thing. I just think that I don't think they realised how big of an impact or miss Mane would be on that squad going forward. And I think it's more of a readjustment and getting used to Mane's not there. So this is how we play now.
A couple of their key players, Van Dijk and Salah particularly, haven't quite hit the same heights as they have previously this season. Are they beginning to show signs of age, or is it just a blip in form?
With Salah, I wouldn't say he hasn't completely hit form. I just think he's not scoring as much. But if you look at his chances created, he's actually creating more chances than he's ever done. So instead of scoring, he's just doing something else. So, of course, Liverpool need these goals more than anything right now because nobody, especially over the last 3 years, have put the ball in the back of the net as many times as him. So They definitely need him to put his goal scoring boots on rather than his assist boots. But necessarily, yeah, Napoli, I wouldn't say that age is getting to Virgil, but I just think Napoli offered Gomez and Matip and Virgil something completely different. They didn't sit back. They were more interested in exploiting Liverpool's high line with the long deep that runs in from deep. And if runs come from deep, and the timing of the pass is perfect, it's next to, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's hard to get that offside trap because they're running from their halfway line. So, and I just think Napoli's tactics was a masterclass. They exploited it well.
Great, thank you. World Cup is obviously approaching quickly now. Do you think Gareth Southgate and England can win it in Qatar?
I'd like to think so. Being English, I'm rooting for that's for sure. But it's tough, isn't it? The World Cup's completely different to the Euros. I thought they did well in the Euros. There was resiliency. Even when they didn't play well, they knew how to still win the game, which normally wins you trophies, to be honest with you, if you can normally do that. If they have that in them again at the World Cup and play well alongside it, they have the quality, especially in the front and the midfield, to actually destroy a lot of teams if they're all on song. So it'll just be a matter of keeping the defence fit, whoever he picks, and keeping them on form.
How much do you think the heat's going to play a part for our players?
Yeah, it's going to be massive. It's very hard, especially the time they're going, because they're coming from, say, a cold England. They're not really going to have much time training in the heat or playing in the heat before that kicks off. So it's going to be a quick transition that they're going to have to get used to. Some players, I think, will adapt to it better. Others won't. But I think you'd expect, say, the South American teams and Spain and teams like that, to the countries like that, to hit the ground running maybe quicker than some others.
Who's your favourite for the tournament other than England?
Oh man, I'm only gonna say England, but you have to look at France, don't you? That I think France have got 3 players for every position that would most probably get in a lot of other countries. So we have to be realistic. And you can, much as nobody likes to say, you can never really ever count out Germany, because in tournaments they just always come good. So it'll be an interesting one, but I'm still going for England to win it.
Do you think a lot of the criticism that Gareth Southgate's got from the fans is unfair or fair, given his record in tournaments?
His record in tournaments, for me, is good. It's insanely good, to be honest with you. He's done more in his short time as England manager than a lot of managers have done over my career. He's gotten to places that we've never got to before. Whether people enjoy the way England play, that's just not what he's there for. For me, at the end of the day, he's there for to try and win trophies. And so far, he's come very close to doing those things. So I think at times you just got to accept this is the way the manager plays. Okay, everybody wants to see England more positive because we know the attack that they have. But at the same time, he has a tactic and it's working for him. So I salute Southgate in doing what he needs to do to get England to finals and semi-finals and giving the players a chance and the country a chance to bring those trophies home.
Calvin Phillips has barely featured for City since joining, and Jack Grealish hasn't played in all of their games so far. Do you think either of these players are in danger of missing out on the squad, or do you think they'll play their way in?
Nah, I don't. For me, I don't think they have to worry too much. I think they've proven, especially in the last tournament and in camps before, and there's one been after. I can't remember if there was one after, but they've proven what the capabilities are. I think Jack's been struggling with injuries, and so has Calvin Phillips. But at the minute, they're both over those, and they're both back in the squad. Jack played well in the 60 minutes, I think it was on Tuesday. He scared them. He ran at them, kept the ball, tried to create chances. It looked like he was enjoying his football going forward and entertaining people again. And I think Calvin Phillips will be fine. It's just a matter of getting over these little niggles that he's having.
Brilliant. Are there any Premier League teams that you think are already going to be looking forward to the World Cup as a chance to reset their seasons?
Yeah. Bournemouth, I think, is the main one. I think Forest, it will be massive for Forest because it's a bit of time for them to get those 21 players together and try and do some team bonding so they can get to know each other properly, because it's not going to be easy for them all together with those many players anyway. So I'd say those ones will be the key ones for me.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so just going to finish off with some USA questions, if that's okay. How do you think Jesse Marsch is faring in the Premier League, and is he changing people's expectations of how an American manager would cope?
No, I think he's done really, really well. Apart from his sending off, which is typical Jesse. I've known him for a while, so he gets very emotionally in tune with the game, just as if he was playing on the pitch. So he finds it hard when something's wrong and he sees it right to keep cool. But I think he's done really, really well. I think he's come in and he's had to step into some big boots at Leeds. Obviously, within Bielsa, what Bielsa did there, he's come in, he's always played I wouldn't say a similar style, but with that high press, that energy. He wants you to not burn yourself out, but he wants you to make it so uncomfortable for the team. But then when you get the ball, keep the ball, try and create chances and enjoy taking people on. That is the way Jesse has always managed. So for me, I think he's done really well. I wouldn't say necessarily surprising because he's worked under the banner of Red Bull for a while. And Red Bull's philosophy has always been quite European-based, coming from obviously Leipzig and Salzburg. They have their coaching staff. They all play the same. So I think he adapted to it quite well.
Fantastic. How did you enjoy your time playing in the MLS, first at New York and then Phoenix?
I really enjoyed it, especially playing in the heat. In my old age, it was good for the joints, so I enjoyed it a lot. One thing I did notice, you would always find, well, when I was at Red Bulls, I think I would say it was a bit different because there was a lot of quality within that, even with the kids that came through. But the more you looked around the MLS, you would only really find it's never a full team of high quality players. There's always like 3 or 4, or 1 or 2 or 5, and then very young kids because of the way the budget system works. So there's always a breakdown point within that team if you're a high possession playing team, until you obviously learn the steps very quickly on what the manager wants to do, and you can relay that on the pitch. But in general, it's tough on the legs because it's full of athletes. They can run all day.
Do you think that budget system is an obstacle between the MLS sort of rivaling European leagues for quality?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's just the budget. Of course, the budget plays a part, especially with the young kids coming through, because a lot of the parents would rather see their young kids be able to support their family and their wife and kids when they get older, and the young kids that come through not really earning enough. So you could say that's a part, but then at the same time, they don't really have an academy facility. So there's three years missed. They just go straight from that into USL, which is basically 17 to 19. And then it's the crossover. So there's no build-up process to, in a way, the reserve league, that you've missed all the steps which take you to get into playing men's football or young men's football sort of thing. So there's still a lot of work for them to do, I think.
How far behind is the MLS to the Premier League, and is the gap narrowing?
No, gap's definitely not narrowing. And unless they start building those infrastructures now, I think it's going to be a long way from it as well.
There's a lot of talented young players in the USA squad at the moment. Are there any particular that stand out for you as being potential world stars?
Well, I like Tyler Adams, but you never know where he's going to play in that USA team. He obviously plays holding midfielder, but he can also play right back, and he tends to play right back a lot for USA. But I think, especially one to watch going forward, I really like Pulisic. He always seems to do well especially for USA, I found, when I've watched him anyway. But he will create problems with his energy, his dribbling techniques, and his quality in front of goal, because he does score some incredible goals.
Obviously, football, like the popularity in the US, is increasing a lot. Can you see a point in the future where they can actually challenge for World Cups?
Oh, that you can kind of say that. I wouldn't say they're heading in the right direction, but they're setting a precedent. I think if you look at Aronson and Tyler, they're both in the Premier League now. Pulisic, there's a lot of American players that are playing in the German league and so on. So I think the fact that most of our national team players now are playing within the biggest leagues in the world is going to give them a massive chance to go on and do things in the World Cup and then the Gold Cup, for example.
Brilliant. Do you think that American Premier League owners have had a positive or a negative effect on the league overall?
I don't think. I think it's neither here nor there, to be honest with you. I think if you look at the Man United owners, then you will naturally say the opposite. But then when you look at, I'd say Liverpool, I think Arsenal as well. I would say in those respects, it's been quite good. It's been quite steady. They wanted to know who they're backing before they backed, or they backed and learned the hard way and taken a different route and done it a better way, like in Arteta's position now. And then you can go to the Chelsea guys that are just splashing cash effectively and then sack the manager. So I'd just say it's in the balance, to be honest with you.
Last question. Two former England teammates, David Beckham and Phil Neville, are obviously working together at Inter Miami now. How do you think that project's faring? And does their friendship make it kind of difficult for Beckham to potentially sack Phil Neville if he starts underperforming?
I think between the both of them, they would know and understand if something needs changing. You might not have to sack him. They might just have a conversation, like you said, they're friends, and just say, look, it's not working, mate. And they say, all right, I'll handle my resignation. So there's easier ways to solve that solution. But in general, I think they're definitely enjoying it. I think they're also realizing, especially Nev's on the other side, that it's not easy to manage in America, because you can't just get all the players you want. You might be able to get only 2 or 3 of those out of 10, and then you have to kind of work with what you have, and work on trade. So I think it's a learning curve for both of them. And I think the next season after this one, I think that you'll see a different Inter Miami.
Do you think we'll see Phil Neville managing in the Premier League at any point?
It would be nice, but he obviously needs to do well enough for people to take notice of him. And I think Patrick Vieira was, I'd say, somebody that did that when he was in America. He changed the whole philosophy of how NYFC wanted to play, even if it took him a year. And I remember people saying to me, they just keep making mistakes. I said, it doesn't matter. He's getting them to play his way. He's giving them the confidence and the belief to say, play out from the back and learn from your mistakes as you do it. And I think that changed NYFC. And they, even though he wasn't there, they went on to win things after him.
Brilliant, thank you. That is everything for me. I'm just going to stop the recording.